Hello, everybody. Happy January. I am so excited. I've officially done a whole year of live streaming once a month, and this is my first in 2024, which means it went well, right? Because I did it all year last year, and it's helped me be accountable. It's helped me show up. It's helped me produce content, my own content. If you're new around here, I like to refer to myself as a content traffic cop. So I'm not making content for other people, but I am making sure it goes the right places at the right time and people see it. So kind of like seeing what's wrong, what's working great, what's not working, that kind of thing. That's the idea. That's who I am. And I decided last year that I tell people to live stream all the time, but I wasn't live streaming. So I made it a goal to come on here once a month and talk with you. And it's actually been so much fun, which I knew it would be fun, but I was nervous about being the one on the screen. I work with brilliant, wonderful people who, you know, how you just feel like somebody has something, a personality trait that you don't. That's kind of why I was like, well, it's great for them, but like, I don't know if it's for me. Then I push myself to do it. And the reason I think it's fun is because you get to just have like fun conversations with people that you want to talk to in the real life, but maybe live way too far away from you. Like Emily, my friend Emily is coming on with me today. I was very excited because last year I mostly went live by myself. I did more like tactical tips and kind of like what I do for work. And I realized the reason I wasn't inviting other people on with me is because I was like, well, I don't want to like take up more time and I don't know. I just didn't feel like I should ask somebody for more time. And then I realized that the whole reason I love to be behind the scenes of live streams is because I get to listen to people have really awesome conversations. And I want to have awesome conversations. And I also want to share that with you. James, so good to see you. Thank you for being here live. It's great to see you. And I can't wait to catch up. I am starting my seeds next month. Is that the right time? He's a gardener and he's been great. Great help for me. And oh, Giacomo, good to see you over on Instagram. Thanks for being here. Anyway, so I decided I want to have a fun conversation with Emily today. Her and I we've realized have a lot of like the same idea about work. And so Emily's a productivity coach. She spent 10 years in corporate and has, I'm pretty sure, a master's degree. I'm going to bring her on so she can tell you more about where she's come from and where she's going and how she thinks about work. So, hi, Emily. How are you?
Hello. Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Of course, of course. Thank you for coming here. And I'm glad to say that we have met in the real life. Now, I feel like we've been Instagram friends for, I don't know, like 3 years. And so it was so fun seeing you at the Permission Slip conference and like getting to actually have an in real life conversation.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Will you tell us just more about like who you are, how you got here, that kind of idea?
Yeah, so I have a really varied background. I have bachelor's degrees in psychology and English. And then after I finished undergrad, I taught preschool for about 18 months. And then after that, I got into the corporate world in event planning, where I worked on recognition events for sales leaders at the company I was at. From there, I pivoted into marketing. And at that time, I was also working on my master's degree, which I did finish. I have a master's in industrial and organizational psychology, which was it was amazing. Like I still love that degree. I don't know. I love education though too. So
Yeah.
I just love to learn. So it was such a fun program to be in. And then after I was in marketing about 3 years after I finished my master's degree, I kind of pivoted out into my own thing and started my business where I was career coaching. And then from career coaching led me to recruiting. And so I was helping people find freelancers. So I'm still kind of doing some of that today. So I've been doing that for about 5 years. And then now I also have layered in productivity coaching as well. Um, 'cause
Okay, so I want you to talk to us about the productivity coaching. Like, what does that
Mhm.
mean? And like I mentioned on my Instagram story, I was like, I'm confused because Emily seems like the most easy breezy, like just for me, like why I love you and like why you're like in my little work corner is because it's like we're not like hustle 100%. Like
Mhm.
we're like whole integrated humans, kind of like what Jen talks about, which is
Yeah.
why I love Jen too, is the idea of like whole humans at work.
Mhm.
And I want to know like how do you be a productivity coach and get people to be productive, but also like chill?
Yeah. So I think one of the things I work on with my clients in particular, because they're not coming in like me, right?
Right,
They're
right.
they're like still pretty intense.
Yeah.
And so um, I think it's why I like productivity coaching so much is because it's so varied where they're at. So sometimes it's a little more business focused, like they need help with systems and processes, but then we're always layering in the personal side. So this fall I worked with a woman who was newly left corporate and was starting her business and needed help figuring out her ideal week and needed to pare it way down because she was like
Mhm.
maxing out and she was also finding herself trying to make up hours. So if something came up, she felt this need to make up the hours. And so then that some of the stuff like those are kind of the beliefs that we're working through.
Oh, so you
Yeah.
kinda help her, like, think through, do we
Mhm.
really have to make up these hours,
Yeah.
or are you still being productive without? Because I know, like, for me, like, I listen to this podcast. Do you listen to the Hidden Brain podcast?
I
I don't
have from time to
usually.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, same, me
Mhm.
too. But there was one that caught my eye that was about screen time and, like, how much of our life is spent on these, like, virtual platforms, but she talked about people checking their emails. Do you wanna know how many times people on average check their emails?
I have no idea.
73 times in a day. 73 times people are, like, opening their email. She said one of the, participants checked it 450 times in a singular
Whoa.
day.
Whoa. Did they talk about like the brain research on that, on like context switching and stuff
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
scale?
exactly, exactly.
Right.
So she kinda,
Yeah.
like, dove into, like, why we are, like, so used to getting distracted that when we don't get distracted by, like, an external force, we'll do it
Mhm.
ourselves. We will,
Wow.
like we will open up, like, different apps, like social media
Mhm.
or, like, Google or whatever, or I meant Gmail, like, your email, and you'll, like, distract yourself from
Mhm.
it. So, let's see, James says, "I have 3 times a day to check it, morning, after lunch, and before leaving at the end of the day." Okay, that's brilliant, James, and, like, I love the concept of, like, blocking out time to be in your email because, again, she talked about how, um, a lot of email, like, ages quickly, so you don't actually need
Mhm.
to respond to that because sometimes people will follow up on that email an hour later and be like, "Oh, I figured it out, never mind." Let's see, and James says, "And it's scheduled on my calendar," like an actual calendar block. I love that. So do you help people with that, like, blocking their calendars kind of thing? Like, what is an ideal week? What does
Yeah.
that mean?
So an ideal week is really about when do you do your best work. So for me, and I've experimented with it from time to time. Sometimes I change it up. But for me right now, and this is probably always true, is mornings are my most productive
Mhm.
time. I get the most done in the morning. I am a morning person. I love to get up and get going. And then I have a slump in the afternoon. And so I plan accordingly. And so for me, I like a lot of it's very popular in the productivity world to do like whole theme days. Like, okay,
Yeah.
my whole day is going to be meetings. Well, it didn't work for me. I was completely exhausted from doing that. I did try it at one point. Yeah, so an ideal week is just about when do you do your best work? When should you be doing which types of work? And so that's why for me, the morning, I focus more on my own creative work and like what do I really need to get done in my business, and then I leave all of my meetings as much as possible for the afternoon, including even clients
Yeah.
because they don't necessarily need like does that make sense? I don't know.
That actually makes me rethink my week right now as I because I can have conversations in the afternoon, but I can't necessarily, like, make sense of chaos or, like, edit videos for me takes, like, a lot of my brain. I literally have a list going right now that's, like, whole brain tasks, like, things that need, like, my entire attention, and then, like, I can do around the kids tasks so
Mhm.
that, like, I can check my email while I'm like helping the kids get fruit snacks or whatever. But I can't edit a video, listen, cut, all that while I'm helping with fruit snacks. So I'm currently trying to figure that out. So we're gonna definitely have to talk more about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
But
and it can change too as, like, your life changes, as, like, you go through these different
yeah.
seasons of life and children growing, and it can change.
Well, I noticed because, like, especially that first year of life with both of my kids, I'm like, I would figure it out. I would have, like, the best system, and then it would be like, "Oh, well, now, like, they just wanna crawl all over the place, so and they don't have as many naps, so now it's, like, completely like, that
Mhm.
first year of life with both kids, for me, was chaotic because it was like I had to switch it up, like, every couple months. It was like, "Okay, now they're not sleeping till this time, now they're sleeping at this time." So that's I like this. I like that idea of like it's still fluid a little bit, even though you have like the gist, I guess. So
Yeah, and with that kind as well, we really started with what was the vision in terms of what was she trying to accomplish, and for
mhm,
her, she really wanted more time with her son, and yeah, so but she was eating into it, right? So
yeah,
because she was making up the time, sh if she
yes,
something came up during the day and she had to, like, miss an hour or something, she was making it up in the evening, and, so we just had to work through those boundaries. What did the time containers look like? When was she going to do what things? Like, what were the priorities each day? And then how are we going to structure it? And then it just comes down to testing it. Like, it's
yeah,
an experimental process to figure it out. Like I said, I tried to do whole days of different things. Like, I tried to theme my days, and I
didn't
couldn't
work.
do it. It didn't work for me.
That's interesting because I my new thing that I am gonna try in February, we'll see if it works, is I wanna have kitchen table days. So days that I work in my office versus days that I work at the kitchen table. So kitchen table days are for those like quick tasks, but I can be more involved with like the kids. And office days are like obviously like office days. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to pick your brain later on, like if that's actually a good idea.
No,
But
I think how would we know unless you try it out?
right,
Like,
right.
I think you have to try that at least a week to a month to see how
Yeah,
it works and take the learnings and adjust,
yeah,
and being willing to scrap it if it doesn't work.
right, and that's the thing, when do you know that it's a fail? Like, when do you admit to yourself, "Okay, like, this isn't working?"
I think for me, it's those, like, signs of exhaustion. Like, if I am too tired at the end, I don't know, I guess I know my
Yeah,
energy pretty well, and so I it's just like, I don't know, I'm always, like, running a little too close to the edge of burnout, so it's been a
yeah,
practice, especially since I left the corporate world in 2015, to, like, stop
yeah,
doing, like, stop burning, like,
yeah.
stop running my life that way.
And don't do it to yourself because that's what I've realized, like, owning my own business and now, like, having other people join my team, I'm like, "We're in charge." Like, we have to like, I need to be in charge of my time, and, like, it's harder than I anticipated of, like, "Okay, I know what I want, but I feel like I should do this," and getting off track of, like, what I actually wanted to do, what the actual goal was. Okay, so let me just see. I even schedule, James says, I even schedule time once a month to plan a date night with my wife. Yes, yes. I love that. Okay. So my question for you, Emily, is on goals. A, do you set goals in January? Or what are your thoughts? Ah,
Well, I I set more of, like, broad hopes,
okay.
I guess, more intentions for the year. I tend to get more clear in the spring for me.
Okay, I've seen that idea recently and I'm curious. So is it like do you block it off in like March or something to like actually get serious about it?
Yeah,
Walk
I'd say
walk me through how you do it.
I do a quarterly check-in. So
Okay,
it usually ends up around the season change because 'cause I'm in Wisconsin, and so our seasons, we have 4 very distinct seasons, and they roughly correspond with dates, like, the official start of each
right.
season. And so I tend to have that be my marker. And
So
so
January is not like here's the big wonderful goals that I have
yeah, because
to
'cause I'm not
follow.
really up and running yet, or I don't know. I just don't it's not that I don't set goals. That sounds kind of funny. I just have more
Mhm.
daily, weekly goals. I use them differently.
Yeah.
I think more about the big picture and the dream and the vision, and that then I allow that to evolve over time.
So it,
So
like, marinates. So we're putting it
yeah,
in the fridge to marinate for 3 months, and then we'll come back to
right.
it.
Because in my in all my so I'm working on this book on goal setting as
Yeah.
well. And in that research, what I was finding is that we get really attached to our goals. As soon as we
Mhm.
call it like a dream or a vision, a goal, we get really attached to it. But like,
Yeah.
think about your big dreams. Like, do you expect to achieve all of them? I mean, I don't.
I was just having this conversation with my husband because I was like, I love goals. Like, I love
Mhm,
setting goals. I think my dad did a really great job when we were little where he would, like, we would, like, come up with the most random, like, huge goals that, like, a 5-year-old was never going to swim with dolphins that year, right? Like, that
mhm,
so for me, when I fail at goals, it's not the end of the world. Like,
mhm,
especially because last year, I made it a goal for me to fail at my goals. Like, I literally was like, "I'm gonna try so many things that I'm gonna fail at them." So I don't have, like, that same relationship with failing
mhm, mhm.
anymore that I used to feel that way, I think. But I was talking to my husband because he's like, "Why would you set a goal that you know you're not going to get?" And I was like, "'Cause it feels fun at the time." Like, I don't know. Is that the wrong answer? Like, so how do you set them in a way that's like they're not these like huge, "We're gonna swim with dolphins next month" kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, I guess I break them down. So I've wanted to write a book for a long time, many years.
That's
I
a
mean,
big goal.
I studied English, so I've always
Right.
known I would write books in my life, and
Yeah.
but the last couple years, it still hasn't been a goal. It's still more like a dream, an intention. It's like something I want to do, but it's such a big project that if that's the
Yeah.
goal, you only achieve that goal one day. I think that's like the biggest problem with the big
Oh,
goals is that it's like every day you haven't achieved it, you are failing or not there yet, not there
yeah.
yet, not there yet. I mean, and so I try to make the goals much more in my control. And then there's something guiding it. So like the book project is still like the dream. I still
Mhm.
want to publish a book. It's just not a goal because and because then it's murky too. When do you even achieve it? Is it, you sign
Yeah.
a deal with a publisher? Well, the book's not actually for sale yet. Is it when you finish your manuscript? Like that's where it's like I think we
The
have to
finish.
be more clear with ourselves. So with my writing goals, I just try to write every day for 250 words. That's been the
Oh.
goal. Like with my initial draft, that's what I
Mhm.
used to get that first portion of the manuscript written.
Yeah, and is that working? Do you feel
Yeah.
like that's like
It
yeah.
was awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm not it's an evolving project, right? Like that
Right.
goal worked for that initial writing chunk. So I got up to about 30,000 words doing that. And I didn't have to write every day. It was 250 words per day most days was
So
my
yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But 250 words, it's like 3 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs.
But it's that's interesting because it's the starting, right? It's always
Mhm.
the starting of any
Yeah, so
goal.
often I
Yeah.
could write 500 words, a thou like, s
Oh, I
I don't think
see.
I ever had a day where I actually wrote 1,000 words, and I think of all the people who set those kind of writing goals, like 1,000 words, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's more
But if
than you
you
think.
know you just have to scribble out 250 and you're like, "Whatever, if they suck, I'll delete them tomorrow and I'll do it again," kind of thing. That's it. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
for me, because that initial draft, you just have to build the quantity so you have
Right.
something to work with, and now I'm in more of a revising, refining stage,
Oh,
so the goal now is just to work on it once a week.
so
And
what's
honestly,
your
it's 5 minutes. Work once a
oh,
week
really?
for 5 minutes.
I
It
love
always turns into 2 hours. But if I said
that.
work on it for 2 hours, then I would run into resistance. Somehow that 2 hours would disappear. I wouldn't be able to find
Yeah.
time for it. And so, yes, this is also
That's
work.
actually a very interesting because I have, like, time blocks on my calendar, and if I see, like, it's, like, an hour that I have to do, like, whatever it is, I'm like, "Oh, I don't have an hour right now." But if I set it for, like, 20 minutes, I'm like, "Okay, I have 20 minutes," and then there's, like, blank space so I can go get a cookie or something, but
Mhm.
then I work through it to, like, 45 minutes, and I'm like, "Oh, yay!" Like, I still get a cookie, but I did 45 minutes.
Right, because the actual goal is so much more achievable, it's actionable, it's in your control,
Yeah.
like, that's what I noticed about that situation is and it's also setting yourself up for success,
Yeah.
'cause often we just have to get started, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so Giacomo on Instagram is asking, how can you turn a dream into a goal? How do you do that? Like, so your book, you had like, you want to write a book, which to me sounds not crazy, but it sounds like a lot.
Mhm.
um, big dream. So how do you like, can you walk us through how that became more goal oriented? Like that,
Yeah, so I think first about that big thing you want to achieve. So think about the big thing and let that be your guide. So think about that as the lighthouse that then drives the next year, the next quarter, and then your
like that
daily
long.
weekly goals.
Okay.
So I that's how I do it. So the dream is the lighthouse. That's just like guiding you, right? You never if you're on the water, you never actually visit a lighthouse, right? You never get to it because that's not its purpose. Its purpose is just to provide guidance and you will have multiple lighthouses, like multiple dreams throughout your life.
I love that, Emily. Why does it make me wanna cry? That is such a perfect example. Like, first of all, I love lighthouses, so that's, like, the perfect analogy for me. But that's such a great idea because it's not we're not trying to get to the lighthouse, like,
Mhm.
it's just showing us where we're trying to get to kind of thing.
Right. So then from there, so like then you're clear on what you want to do, like what the
Yeah,
dream is. So that's the big thing. Then I think in terms of the next year and the next 3 months. So this is where
okay.
like that quarterly
That quarterly
rhythm
goal. Like,
works well for
Janae says
me.
she does quarterly goals too, so
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
love that.
ask you about that.
Because it's a smaller container, it makes it a little easier. Because like, these big, huge plans we try to make, like, they don't accommodate for what you learn 3 days into it. So,
Right,
that's why I like some of those smaller plans. Because like, I could have gotten into this book writing process and hated it beyond belief. Like,
right.
what's the point of pushing through that if it's just not if it wasn't meant for me? So I make that mindset shift and then I make the goals that and it all lines up, right? So then the goals become really small, they're actionable, I'm setting myself up for success. It's more of a checklist. I did it or I didn't do it and then I can see that progress adding up. Like I think
Right.
more a little more terms of plus or minus on my goals, like I did it or I didn't do it and then kinda track it that way to see if it's working.
Yeah, I like that too because then it's like those like it's more of a to-do and less of like a I achieved versus I didn't achieve it. It almost like takes that worth away from that goal. It's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay, like this is working and this isn't, but it's still I'm still headed to the lighthouse. It's just a little course correct on my
Right,
boat
and think about
or
the
whatever."
water. I mean, like I said, I'm in Wisconsin, Minnesota area. We have tons and tons of lakes, and
I
so when
wanna
I'm
come I've
on
never been there. I wanna come.
oh, it's amazing. But that's a story for another day. But when you're, like, in a kayak or a canoe or on a stand-up paddleboard, there is no path, there's no road. You can
Yeah.
go wherever you want on this lake. Like, you can go
Yeah.
wherever you want. And so I think that's also why that lighthouse analogy works so well for me too, is then it allows the path to be more flexible. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so when I was saying, like, I think more about, like, I've got these daily, weekly goals, and then I think about them plus or minus, and then I can track them then in my planner,
Mhm.
and when you have it written down somewhere, you could do it on, a digital planner too, but, um, I notice, like, if I am hitting a lot of minuses, if I am not getting to something, then I can look at, like, okay, what needs to change? Is this the right priority? Is it now not the time to pursue this? What's off? I can set up better systems then to make it happen.
Yeah, okay, but I'm a little confused. What's the plus or minus? So, like, plus means I achieved it today, and
Yeah.
then minus is like and then you, like,
Mhm.
could basically add it up like a math problem of,
Yeah.
like, okay, this goal is working and this one's not.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
love
so
that.
think about, like, my daily goal of writing 250 words. I would just every day, I just tracked how many words I wrote, and then so then that was, like, the plus if I did it, right? But if at one point, I think about a year ago, I just stopped writing. Like, it was
Yeah,
just minus, 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 minus for, like, 2 weeks, and I thought, "Okay, I need a break." I need a break from this project.
Oh,
I need to set it down and come back because it's hard. I mean, especially this creative, like a
yeah.
creative endeavor
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, it is hard to force it to
I
happen.
I have so many thoughts on that because so
Mhm.
I'm in the content space, right? So I help people produce content, and sometimes my clients will be like, well, first of all, I like to refer to myself as a squeaky wheel at work because it's like, "Hey, like you said you were gonna do a video. Are we still doing the video? Like, do you need help with it?" kind of thing. And at inevitably, at some point working with somebody, they will be like, "I'm just not feeling it." And I'm like, "Great. That's wonderful. Check. We're moving on." Like, don't
Mhm.
try to force the creativity if it's not there because it's so obvious on like the receiver's end when it was like a check in the box versus it being like something that you actually want to put out in the world, which is why for me, like I can only commit to doing a live show once a month. That's my commitment for content. Like if I post more content than that, great. If I don't, like I know that like this is the bare minimum for me is like showing up once live.
Mhm.
But I realize, like, as I do it, some seasons I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like, every day I can post," or, like, once a week I can post. But when I hit those seasons where I'm not feeling creative, having a conversation with somebody once a month is not it's not taxing on me. But me trying to, like, produce that content every single day, taxing, and it's not good. Nobody
Mhm.
likes it. So it's just like I think it's okay, especially in the creativity space, to take a step back when you need it, and I think I wish more people were okay with that. You know what I mean? And not viewing it as a failure. Like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I didn't put that content out when I said I was gonna put that content out." Like, who is telling you you have to put the content out? Like, you can skip a week. Like, if you're overwhelmed, skip the week. It'll be okay. Like, and usually it helps you pick back up with that creativity consistency. And did you feel that with your book? Like when you did take that break? Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I took most of last year off from writing, and it was
Yeah.
so good because I noticed a couple of things. One, my voice evolved. Like I developed as a writer in that time, and I feel like I'm coming back and making these revisions as a stronger writer. And I also learned a lot more. So I ran a couple
Oh,
live master classes on the topic. I was interacting with it. Oh, and I started the YouTube channel so
yeah.
I could start doing more goal setting so I could explore goals in a smaller format, so
Yeah.
there wasn't so much pressure that it had to be in the book. It can just be a video on YouTube.
Right. And if it doesn't do good, who cares? Like it was a video on YouTube,
No, and it helped
whatever.
me create content for the book.
Like,
'Cause now I'm pulling things that
exactly.
I created last year in a different form, a different medium,
Yeah.
and now they're just working so beautifully into the book as well.
I love it. Thank you so much, Emily. We are at just about time, and I just appreciate you so much for coming here. I know you were busy, and I love, love, love this idea. And I'm really going to be thinking about that lighthouse thing going forward. Is there anything that we like? What do you want us to know about you, about your work, about this book? Like, what's one thing you can leave us with?
Yeah, I guess I would encourage anyone watching to go find me on YouTube. It is my favorite platform. I am having a blast creating content over there. I have so much content in the hopper now that just needs to be edited and put out, but it is such a fun platform. And I think I love it's really flexible. So I have lots of different, there's just a lot of variety out there that really shows everything I'm interested in. So
Well, that's what I was gonna say because 'cause I've been really enjoying your book recommendations
yes.
on there. I think that that is so much fun because I my friend literally, she's like, "Hey, what book can I get you?" She was at somewhere. She was like, "I
Mhm.
wanna get you a book." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." Pull up Emily's YouTube. I'm like, "I know she had a recommendation on here."
I have oh, and because of that, Shelby, I have 2 more coming for you. I
Oh, I'm
did
so
a
excited.
trio on work, meaningful work, so 3 book
Oh,
recommendations, and yesterday I recorded a Britney Spears memoir review. That book was amazing. Oh my gosh.
I
I
can't
cannot wait to send you
everybody
that one.
I went to, California recently to record my LinkedIn Learning
Mm,
course,
mhm.
and when I was on the plane, I saw, like, 6 women with that book, and I was like, I'm gonna have to look at it.
It's good.
Can I
I
watch your video without having read it, or do I have to read it
Oh,
first?
yeah, no, it's like a
Okay,
review. Like, this
okay,
is what I thought of this book. This is why I
okay,
think you should read it. This is
okay,
my, like, honest reaction, things like that.
perfect.
So, yeah,
Awesome.
more book reviews to come because they're so fun, and
I love it. I've been loving that, and, like, I also love the thing I love about YouTube too is you get to, like, skip through sometimes, like you have those timestamps or those like blocks.
Mhm.
So what I love, like why I tell people, like if you're going live on YouTube or on LinkedIn, which most of like my clients want to go live just on LinkedIn, I'm like, just create a YouTube channel. Don't even pay attention to it, but like create it, and like it just does its thing by itself.
Mhm.
And creating like those timestamps for people to kind of like skip through the videos is so awesome. And also like a much easier link for people to be like, oh, I'm just going to pull it up on YouTube. Anyways, that's my plug for YouTube. I think it's doing great things. I am like super excited to like dive into it more. That's kind of one of my big things for 2024 is figuring out more YouTube things. So I'm excited that you're over there.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's super
And
fun.
you're getting lots of love for the Brittany book. So
Oh, good, yes. Yes, if
okay,
you haven't read it, it is so good.
James and Shanae, you need to go watch that YouTube and let me know what you think of Emily's thoughts
Yeah,
on
I'd
it.
love to know what they thought of the book too if they read it or their
Yes.
response.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I love talking to you. Everybody go follow Emily's channel on YouTube, and hopefully we have you back on a different time. Emily, thank you so, so much.
Thank you.